Finally, I can relax a little bit.
Hey, it's a voice in the back of your head. Do you remember
No,
that?
no, not again. Dude, can you not tell that I've been busy this entire, I'm just trying to relax.
Don't get pissed off at me. You're the one who kept on forgetting to make a video for the past couple of months.
You're kidding me. You're kidding me. Why are you right? Why are you right? Oh my God. Good morning, comrades. There's a lot of people at the store getting milk right now, and I was one of them. It's been a while. It's been a couple months. And in the last video, I actually was painting an illustration in Greyscale to show how you can give depth and illusion and really make a composition pop using only Greyscale alone. And now in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to actually color that Greyscale and bring life to the value that you already added to a Greyscale image. And so now you can have an illustration that looks lively, is easy to paint, and is extremely adjustable if you separate it properly. So let's get into it.
Okay, so firstly what's going to happen is, as you can see here, I have my illustration. I wanted to create a light source in this upper corner, created the dark shadows right here and the dark values, and then I'm going to have a backlighting right here. The concept is going to be maybe like a purplish yellow. I haven't decided yet, but we're going to be able to adjust. For now, what's going to happen is I want to take all these layers because I have most of them sort of in one layer, except for the horn. And I think the horn itself is separate if I unclip it. No, I'm going to have to adjust that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take all this and then just separate it. So like right here at where the hair is, actually I'm going to go on this dark gray area and just create like a line with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it, select it, and then I'm just going to copy and paste it. Or in fact, what I could do is I could actually invert that, copy, paste that, and then delete the section under. And so basically what we're going to do is we're just going to overlap all these and give everything a separate layer, including the hair, the face for the skin tone, the horn, and then the back for the skin. So let me just do that real quick. So now that I have everything separated in a way that is easy to work with, I have monocle, I have my eye, I have my horn, hair. I'm just gonna make adjustments to this. So I want the depth from her clothing to, I want her clothing to be just a little bit darker. So what I can do is I can just go to tone curve, and it is on the opposite screen, my bad. Bring this down just a little bit, and then just play with it. I really want things to pop, but I don't want it to become too undersaturated, or yeah, too oversaturated, my bad. So this keeps those midtones where I want them, but it adds a lot more depth to the shadow, which is what I was looking for. And I'm going to do the same with the hair and the face. Just make those adjustments. So the whole idea behind a gradient map is that it chooses a value that correlates directly to a color that you select for the map. Meaning that if this is the base layer for the skin, what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, go to new correction layer, and then select gradient map. Now I already have one made, so after I do that, I'm going to clip that gradient map to that specific layer, and then I can adjust from here. Now here's the thing, I like the colors here, but obviously the values that go along with it aren't necessarily my top choice. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to click on each of these colors individually and begin to adjust them. Now the thing is, you can also use a slider to adjust the colors individually. meaning that I can move my darks more upwards and have them encapsulate more area of the value, or I can add more lights. And this is also how we're going to adjust the depth of the image, not simply by just adding the value, but also moving the value scale. After that, we can then go in and adjust these with an airbrush to add some more depth to these, but for now, what I'm just trying to do is I'm trying to get the saturation I'm looking for out of these colors without having to affect it directly. So I might want to add just a little bit. So what's cool and what you're going to notice about this is that everything is actually pretty adjustable, meaning that if I go in here, I can really just start to slide and choose where the value lays, but I can also adjust this value directly. And so say I'm lacking depth in the hair, right? I could just add a bit more blue and then go to a more saturated color. And then obviously this is a little bit exemplified, but now I have a bit more depth in the hair. And before you go in and add like an overlay layer or something that you might be more familiar with, like a color burn layer, you can do this to add depth and really make the colors pop, make it look less muddy, which is what I'm about to do in a second. But for now, I'm just setting a rough baseline. And as a little tidbit, if you're really struggling to actually make a gradient map, there's tons of resources. And I mean, like if you have Clip Studio, or if you have a favorite artist, maybe they make gradient maps that they have on their Patreon, something similar. Or you can actually create your own using reference images. Now, what you're going to find is if you've ever tried to paint and you've tried to borrow colors from a piece, you're going to recognize that it's probably not going to work the way that you want, right? And so I want to make sure that I don't use the wrong gradient. Okay, you know what? It's fine. It's whatever. So what you can actually do is you can use an image, and then I'm just going to select the highlight color. I'm going to select my midtones. I'm going to go in and then select the core shadow color. And then see my line art color is right there. And you recognize, obviously, this isn't going to be a perfect one-to-one, and it needs adjustments to pull the same colors from here. And so it's not necessarily to say like, hey, you can color like this, right? But it is going to help you set up a baseline if you are struggling to really select those colors, which when you're learning how to gradient map is kind of what everybody else is going to be doing, right? So now I'm at a point where I kind of like what I have, and while I do want to make some adjustments to, say, more of her outfit again, so that is going to be this layer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start playing around in like the tone curve and saturation and all that, and go and make these individual adjustments before I really start to combine these things. But the thing that I want y'all to understand is it is all about preference, your workflow. Everybody is going to have a different preference and a different workflow as a result. But my personal preference is that I really want to take all these individual layers and work on them just to try and get something that's satisfactory to me before I merge them together and paint over them. But for some people, this might actually mean what they want to do is that they are going to take their individual layers and continue to work on them individually. And while that may work for somebody, that's not going to work for other people. And so it really depends on how you want to do this. For me, I really want everything to pop, but I also know that I don't want it to be too unbalanced while I'm doing this process, which is why I'm working on these layers individually, because I know that in case I find myself in a position where, or I don't want to find myself in a position where something just feels unbalanced, right? So what I'm trying to do is just go in and add a little bit of balance here and there, and it helps to know how different areas affect or how different tools that you use affect different areas. So the contrast is not just going to add light and darker values, it's also going to start to bring out a little more of that saturation. And when you really start to play with these tools and you start to kind of get them to a point where you're exaggerating everything, right? Then you're going to start to realize how they actually operate. Like up here in this horn, I know that what I'm going to be doing later on is I'm going to be adding highlights directly to it. But for now, what I want is just to get a little bit more contrast to bring out that backlighting. So as I would come over here, add maybe just a little bit more saturation to match everything else that I'm doing, come over here, and then just use the contrast tool. And if you want to, you could also go in and add tone corrections, because I'm finding that the contrast tool is only going to continue to bring out the dark values that I don't want. So instead, I'm going to just sort of work into those dark values and keep those mid-tones as we would. And then from then on, I'm going to take all this and merge it into one selection. So now we have a separate image. What some people might do is they might actually copy everything, or wait, they might put this all in a folder and then copy that folder, which for the sake of this video we're going to do. And then we would merge the everything, turn off the folder, and then go in and adjust from here. If you do have little details, by the way, like the monocle, I decided to separate that out because I do want to work on this individually. I do want to clip it, and it is a small detail which can get annoying if it's blended with everything else. But that's my personal preference. Everything here, I like to keep it sharp. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to create a new layer. For some color adjustments, it is going to be hard light. For others, it is going to be overlay. I personally choose to use overlay. And so what I am going to do now, after Clip Studio saves itself, is I am going to select certain areas. So like this backlit area, I'm going to just lasso tool it. And I can't stress this enough, you do not have to be perfect, because right now we're just adjusting colors. And as time goes on, then what we can do is we can then polish everything up with another line art layer, or painting over it or something or another, you know. But if I remember correctly, at the video, or at the beginning of the video, I did say I want to do like a sort of purplish. So I'm going to try and bring out this purple that I set with this backlight, right? And so I really want to emphasize that color, but I'm trying to keep the value of everything. And so I'm really trying to keep everything separated in a manner that makes it look cohesive, but doesn't lose the main lighting from up here either. You're really trying to structure things in a way that makes sense for you, makes sense for the person viewing the art, and so forth. Which for me means painting over these edges directly. And for these closer edges, trying to ignore those, because I'm really trying to separate these values. So like here, here, here. Now we already have a good sense of backlighting. And the hair is always going to be tricky. The hair is always the trickiest part. So it really depends on how you want to do it. For me, I might personally select the areas which are underlit right here and do this. Do something like that. And then just directly add some fluff to some of the main section. But I also want to keep this dark area to imply that, hey, this is a backlight and not just random lighting in this area. As a result, I might actually come over here and take a similar value to the shaded area and start to kind of darken this area just a little bit. I don't want to do it too much. And something you'll find, especially in workflow, and I avoided it for the longest time, and a lot of people do, is the lasso tool is your best friend. You know, if you're looking for something that makes your workflow speedy, the lasso tool is it. And you're probably thinking to yourself, well, it's hard to use, it's never consistent, I'm not that steady. And it's like, trust me, you don't have to be that steady. You just got to do your best. So we have our backlighting right there, right there. And then just notice how I'm trying to separate these edges, because you're wanting everything to be separated and be visible. It gives it shape, it gives it form, it gives it value. So that's exactly what I'm trying to do here. Another thing I want to stress is you really got to ask yourself what's capturing light where and why, okay? Because you have to think about it. If lighting is coming down and we're going to have refractive light coming back up, the shoulder is going to cover a lot of that refractive light. Now, the back area, we aren't going to think about that. We know that light is going to interact back here. But if this shoulder right here is angled and light is bouncing directly back up, it is going to block a lot of the light that might hit this hair right here. However, if the jaw is sticking forward, then it might receive some of that light. So when we're adding in this purple here, I can add some here, but I'm going to separate it from the hair that's right here. This is going to help add depth. But I don't even know if I like that purple right there. It does make the face stand out a little bit though. So I'm going to add just a little bit, not too much. And something you can actually do is you also have to remember that as this goes deeper into the face, it's not going to receive as much as that reflective light either. So it's going to fall more into this either neutral color or the natural skin tone color, which is why I can erase some of this just core shadow area. But I do know that the chin is going to receive just a little bit of purple as a result. Okay, so now this is where I'm going to start to add in the details that I wanted. So now I did admittedly learn this one from Mark Brunette actually, but what is next is we are going to use a hard light layer. And the hard light layer is going to be used to do all the highlights of everything. So, for example, this purple, I really want this purple to be prominent on our character's horns right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to bring out this purple using the hard light layer. And then to make note that the horn is a reflective shiny material, what I actually want to do is select a familiar color to something that is near it, which this is going to be the blue. And I can bring that in as well with this hard light. Because there's a lot of light coming off of this hair. Like, don't get me wrong, it is obviously a lighter color hair, but the fact that it's reflecting this brightly says obviously that it has the potential to reflect back onto the horn as well. And so as it moves further away, so too might the luminosity that it produces, the reflection provided by the horn. But this hard light layer is definitely going to be most noticeable in this backlighting area, which when we're trying to provide, I want to use a different pen. Where is my Melty brush? This one. Which when we're trying to provide this sense of depth and really make everything sort of pop, using the hard light layer is definitely going to be able to do that. Because by being able to add these highlights, we're separating some of these areas out from other areas. And we're going to think about the edges for a moment. So as it gets closer to this corner and this corner, it is going to blend in. This is a backwards facing edge right here, meaning that it is facing directly towards the light. I can bring it out more. Blend the bottom half. If I want to make it look just a little bit more complicated, this fold right here, I'm gonna actually take into account the chance of a secondary ripple and then a shadow produced by it, which is going to add a bit of a hard edge right there. You know, I wasn't gonna say it, but boys, we edging now. Sorry. Okay, so over here, and I want you to notice the way light disperses, all right? Because if this is going over this edge directly, it is going to disperse as it gets further away from the light source. However, if this edge is rounded, then it is going to disperse around the light source. It's going to soften in either direction. So this one going this direction, but for right here, it's going to remain hard as it stays at the top. But as it curves around this form, it is going to sort of soften like that. It's just a general rule of lighting. You're going to notice this doing highlights, especially in value studies, but here this helps a lot too. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a final adjustment of the colors, just to make sure I like everything before throwing on a real simple background, because it's just a rather simple illustration, right? So I actually think I like it with quite a bit more red added. Do I want to add that much more magenta though? No. The green is going to neutralize everything. I add more yellow. No, but I do like adding a bit more blue too, right? And so this changes the appearance of everything. It brings out a lot more color within the shoulder and within the purple that we're trying to bring out. So I think I'm going to leave it like that. From here on out, it will be a balance of probably just a tone curve. And then just see if any of these I want to move out a bit. I want to keep that up, move it down, keep it where it is. Move it down just a little bit. Any of these darker areas. No. Like those where they are. Move up these midtones. No. Bring them down just a little bit, actually. Then start to move up secondary midtones. Then flesh out some of these highlights just a little bit. This really starts to make everything pop. There's a sort of gradation effect that happens sometimes when you use the tone curves. I like it, some people don't. It really is just based off of personal preference. But I like where this is going so far. What else you could do is you have the choice between all the tonal corrections, which is sometimes people use posterization. They sort of flesh it out by putting on a second layer and then erasing the focal point, leaving the posterized area to the less detailed areas, and then it sort of cell shades it in a way. So it really depends on how you want to do it. I just did color balance, I just did tone curve, bit of a level correction. No, I'm good. Over here, and then figure out with the hue just a little bit, and realize I don't like where any of that's going, so I'm not gonna do it. If I add just a little bit of saturation, do I like that? Just a tad, not a ton. I like the way it sort of pinkens up the face just a little bit. It's not me entirely. Ooh, I do have an idea. So what I might want to do is I might want to recopy this layer and then create a layer with just a little bit less luminosity, and then come in and erase just the areas which are going to be like focal point areas. So that's going to be the face, the hair, the back, and then this shoulder area. And then this is going to darken out the middle parts of the hair in a way that I was trying to do earlier, but I wasn't really able to successfully do. Right? It's a simple thing, but I like it. And so now the last thing that I might want to do is throw on an overlay layer. Isn't to affect background? Is it? Okay. So that means what I'm going to have to do is actually delete the overlay layer and then just create the light source itself. So I do know I want it to actually be not too bright, but just a little bit brighter than it was. And actually, let's start to bundle into the pink. Nah, let's go back to that purple color. Yeah, okay. And this is going to start to bring out the colors of the hair. And then just for texture, going to just drop some of these boys off. And it helps to, if you're adding texture like that, or dust particles, it helps to just add some on the forward layer too. Because it does make it feel like the character is in the midst of the environment rather than just sort of portraying it. And I like to be kind of meticulous. That's just how I am. But it really depends on the person, right? Now, normally this is where I'd stop, but I do want to try something, just one little itty bitty thing, which I'm actually going to come back over here, create an add layer, and I hope this edge isn't too hard. No, it's going to be too hard. So let's use a highlight layer then. Let's see if we can actually create a highlight layer right here instead, and then do this. Right, and so we set gold. Right, and then let's just lower this just a tad. Do I like how that looks? And the answer is no. I do not like how it looks. Just a little bit. Now, I like the amount of dark that's actually produced in this area. And so while it would be easy to create an obvious light source coming from this corner, I think I'm gonna leave it because it really creates this sort of focal point in the rear end with the backlighting. And this is, the backlighting itself was a big concept for this piece. So I'm gonna leave it like this. I do think I want to add just a little bit more magenta just to try and bring out the face. So that's where we would go to color balance, magenta, and then red. Blue. Okay, yeah, I really like the way the environment settles like right there with the blue, because it starts to bring out a lot of the depth in the hair too. I'm really trying to incorporate the face in with all this color. So another thing I might do is actually just cheat this just a little bit and go into overlay and maybe blue. Yeah, just a slight touch. And I think this illustration is finished. So the overall idea behind using a gradient map is essentially that you have a value map and then you have the corresponding colors that you choose to each individual value, or as many value selections as you want, or as many as Clip Studio will allow anyways, or whichever program you choose to use. And so the benefit of this is that it greatly speeds up the process of the illustration. It makes each individual part of the illustration, from the color to the depth of the value of individual parts from core, shadow, highlight, etc., also adjustable. And it really improves your workflow as a result, as opposed to, you know, simply painting over and then second guessing and then painting over and then second guessing, or using an adjustment layer. So yeah, that's how gradient maps work. If you have any questions, any comments, concerns, any things you want to let me know, feel free to shoot. I'll try to respond. And I know I did talk a lot about tools and all the other stuff that Clip Studio has to offer, not just gradient maps in this video. Sorry about that, but it's part of my workflow, and so I hope you guys learned something from that too. Anyways, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it, and bye-bye.